Hello, everybody, and welcome to Lord of the Collections. My name is Tyler Macklem. I'm your host, and I am joined today by two very special guests, all the way from New Zealand, from the Weta Workshop itself. We have Leonard Ellis and Jules. Hello, guys, and welcome to the show.
Hey Tyler, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
It is a massive privilege to have you guys on the show. It's something I've wanted to have for a long time, and so I'm thrilled to finally be able to get you guys on the show. And so for those of the newer collectors who maybe are watching who aren't familiar with you guys and your work, can you just introduce yourselves and explain your role at Weta and how long you've been there and what you do, kind of?
Okay, I'll go first then. My name's Leonard, and I'm the HOD of the manufacturing side of the collectibles department. And I've been at Weta, I'll be coming up to 15 years next year, so a bit of a while. And for the vast majority of that time, I've been involved in collectibles. I've made no secret, that's what I wanted to do at Weta. So I made it my mission to wangle my way through into that scene. So it's yeah, I love it. I really enjoy the collectibles. We've got a great team here. Jules is just making a bit of noise in the background. So just excuse him there. Yeah. So Jules.
Hi, I'm Jules. I'm currently the creative director of consumer products, which means I look after the team of artists that make our collectibles and help sort of strategically steer us in what direction we feel might be the right one to go in. I've been at Weta 11 years. Previous to this role, I ran the paint department, and like Leonard, my passion was always with the collectibles. They're always, out of all the things we've made and all the different areas we interact with, the collectibles have always been a standout for me and what I'm really passionate about. So 4 years ago, I made the move full-time down to consumer products to work even more closely with Leonard and just focus full-time on collectibles.
Awesome. That's very cool. I think that's awesome that you guys I think you guys have like dream jobs. I think that's so cool that you get to make cool things from the greatest films of all time. So
It's pretty awesome. Like I still get those pinch yourself moments. Like there's some days where it still doesn't quite feel real.
yeah.
There's other days where it feels like a hellscape.
It is. They are. And you go, oh, I need a career change. What do I want to do? It's like, I want to hang out with my mates and make cool stuff. Oh, well.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I mean, we're in a very privileged position. It is pretty awesome.
Yes, I bet. So let's just dive right into it. Since I've started collecting, I've always been kind of curious what the process is for making a collectible. And what does that look like from start to finish? Do you guys have like big group meetings with a whiteboard and you're like, let's do this? Or is it Richard just says, we're going to do this? Or how does that work? What does that look like from start to finish?
There actually genuinely isn't one way it happens. There's a multitude of different ways it happens. Sometimes it's like you said, we jump into a boardroom or a meeting room, all of us together with Richard, and we map out what we'd like to make. Other times, like Kareth Ungol's in it that we recently did is an example I really love. Leonard just really wanted to do that. He'd wanted to do it for years, and because of its importance in the story, we felt like it's a valid subject matter.
Yeah.
So that one came about purely because Leonard was passionate about doing it.
Right.
Other times it's a response to forums, or we pay as much attention as we can to the community and try to get a sense of what people want. Other times it's something that, like you said before, Richard just wants us to do. So there isn't really one way it can happen, if that makes sense.
Okay. So once you come up with an idea, let's say Helm's Deep, for example, what's the process after that? Like you've decided we're doing this. Where does it go next in the span of the creation process?
when we were told, the guys came to me and said, "Right, we're making Helm's Deep." So one of my first questions is usually, if they don't tell me, is how big it's going to be, which is
Right.
sometimes it fits into one of our standard sort of pricing brackets. We've got, just general pricing brackets that sort of target whether we've got a small, large, or exceptional
Right. Yeah.
collectible. And in the case of this one, it was like we want the base to be about yay big. And
Right.
so what I did then was I did a quick mock-up of the castle in digitally, and then just printed out, just as in paper printouts of different sizes. And we just looked at that and we went, that one, and then I built it to that. So
Okay.
yeah, in the case of this one, it wasn't, so much it's got to be, that big. It was just often it was just what size base we're going to do, because it's the base often, will dictate the size of the box and all that sort of thing, which is an important part of the collectible of,
Right.
shipping around the world and that. In the case of Helm's Deep, it was I needed a bit more, so I kind of spread out on the back a little bit
Right.
to
Right.
the sides. It's like, whoops, did I do that?
Yeah, often the we find that the subject matter in many ways can kind of dictate what size it should be. Like we're always trying to maximize detail and bring as much as we can. So if we go too small, it's actually harder to do. There's less we can achieve. So it's
Right.
finding the right balance between what the subject matter, how the subject matter is best served, plus how we get it to the collectors in a way that they can afford and we can ship it to them.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's like a balancing act, really. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Interesting. So what criteria does a location or a character have to meet, if there are any, to be created? And how is that decided on?
Oh, good question. Like we kind of want to do them all, and over the last 25 years, we've had a pretty solid attempt at it.
Yeah.
Usually, it kind of depends who you ask. Like I'm a really visual person, so I like things that look cool. Everyone's that's a subjective statement. Dan Falconer is really driven by moments, so he'll often bring to the table like a powerful moment in the film, and then we'll figure out how to sculpt it. Leonard's really into environment, so he sort of runs that one. So it's all the really obvious stuff, I think. Like, what effect did it have on the narrative in the whatever trilogy we're doing, Hobbit or Lord of the Rings? There's certain things that really resonated with fans, like the Rohan, for example, are really popular. People love them,
Yeah.
so that's kind of a safe bet. Plus, they look cool.
Hmm.
Um, so there's not one answer to that. We try and pick important moments from the story, stuff that we think will resonate with fans. And then there's sort of outliers as well, where there's things that we just really want to do, like internally, because maybe the person that worked on their armor is still on the crew, so they want to see it as a collectible. And there's a lot of like personal stories still within the company. Jamie Bez Warwick, for example, is wonderful at creatures. So everyone's got different skill sets or specialties, that
Yeah.
they bring to the table. So that also informs the decision.
Right.
And then, of
Cool.
course, we've got the no-brainer decisions. We just a scene or something on the floor. It's like, right, got to do that, got to do that, got to do that. Make sure we do that. So,
Yeah, right.
there's some that just there's an automatic list for them.
Yeah.
Just when we get to do them is a different story.
And then
Right,
other
right.
times too, like technology will advance. Like 3D printing kind of changed the game and allowed us that there's suddenly a whole lot more that we now can do that we couldn't do previously. Translucent resins have come a long way, so now we can make things transparent, whereas in the past that was a lot more difficult. So it's also keeping up with what's possible.
Right.
Yeah, so there's
Right. That
lots of factors and lots of
makes,
material, so we're lucky.
yeah. Yeah, right. Well, just seeing the quality of the the collectibles today compared to the old like Sideshow Weta ones.
Yeah.
And some of them hold up pretty good, and some of them they're just light years ahead. It's like the Model T and a Ferrari, it feels like. You know,
Yeah.
like I have the new Theoden and this the details is just insane. And I have the old one from the Sideshow Weta line,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh, amazing.
and like there's wrinkles and there's liver spots and you can see like detail on his tongue and all the armor. It's just it's mind-boggling. It's fascinating how fantastically detailed it is. Like I can walk by that and look at it and I see something new almost every time. You
Yeah.
know, it's just fantastic how detailed they are, you
Oh,
know.
that makes me really happy to hear that. Yeah, like I always tell people, we're like Leonard's been doing this, well, his whole life, but 15 years with us. So Leonard's 15 years better than he was 15 years ago. And
Yeah.
it's the same for all of us. Like the more we practice our craft, the better we get. And then in conjunction with technology and what's possible with new silicons, because we make our molds out of silicon. So technology is advancing as well as just our personal
Yeah.
skill sets. So the better we get and the more practiced we get, the better the collectibles can be. Plus the kids coming up or the younger sculptors, like they're amazing. I think each generation sort of gets better because they've
Yeah.
learned the previous generation has made all the mistakes. And so that's a whole area they can sort of jump over and then start making a whole bunch of new mistakes.
Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah, it's really interesting to see there's the old cool kind of romantic. Well, these artists worked on the films, and then there's the new artists coming in and they're doing such fantastic stuff and it's really cool to see just these new artists and the stuff they're doing and just the familiar faces and names on the box, you know, on the bottom of the on the collectibles, you know. It's interesting you guys mentioned some of the criteria and stuff. I can when you guys announced the 25th or the 20th anniversaries for the films, there was one statue I wanted above all, and that was a mounted Theoden. And you know, on the form I had mentioned to Daniel, I said I want to hear and feel that moment from the film every time I look at that thing. It's it's the my favorite moment in the whole trilogy, you know. As a as a 10-year-old kid sitting in the theater, it just blew me away, right? And
That- yeah.
still being able to capture that in a collectible, and every time I walk by at my house, I'm transported to that moment and I get all the emotions and the feelings and it's and so I think that's really cool when you guys can capture that kind of stuff in a statue.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear you say that. Like one of the things we say in the team is that we kind of think a sign of a successful sculpt is if you look at it, you should better instantly know what that character, if it's a character, what he or she sounds like, what they smell like, how they move. If we do our jobs correctly, it should instantly take you back to that moment where you initially encountered either the character or the environment.
Hmm.
It's because there's times where, you know, we've obviously got quite a challenge trying to bring that emotion because there's so many times where we'll watch the scenes over and over again, and you'll have that charge of the rohirrim and that, you know, it'll be like a 3 or 4 minute scene, and you need to watch a little bit just for reference, you know, just to get and you the amount of times you end up watching the entire scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know? So, you know, you're not just going like, I'm gonna go to that 20 seconds or whatever, and just you kind of end up watching you know you've got a challenge in your hands to produce a collectible
Right.
to match
Yeah.
the emotion that's, you know, you're watching. So it's so thank you. Yeah, that's really
Well,
great.
one does not just simply watch part of the charge of the rohirrim. You watch the whole charge.
Yeah, exactly.
No, we still get, well, I still get caught up. I'm sure I can speak for everyone. Like all of us here would have watched the films and like thousands of times because it's our main point of reference.
Hmm.
Like we still get blown away by just how good they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, people call them the greatest films of all time for a reason. You know. So so how long does it take to create a prototype? Once you've just figured out what you're making, how long does it normally take from to get a prototype ready to get mass produced?
Generally, vast amount of variables, but very generally speaking, it's about 1 year from concept to product
Okay.
finished. Yeah. So a
Okay.
prototype, because probably nine months to 1 year.
Yeah.
There's a lot of variables. Like there's a lot that can go wrong because it takes a lot of people to it's actually exceedingly complex to make these statues. So the amount of people involved is quite large. So if crew, if they can't come to work for any reason, or that can slow it up. Um, the world has been very complex the last 5 years with everything that's going on. That's been challenging to navigate for timelines, but very generally speaking, 1 year.
Okay.
Yeah, so a sculpt can take either digital or traditional, and clay can take, depending on the subject matter, anywhere from 6 weeks to 4 months. Then it goes to Leonard's team. So there's mold and casting. If it's a 3D print, there's 3D printing, then clean up, mold and casting, paint. There's approvals with the studio at multiple stages. They usually happen pretty quick. We have a very good relationship with the studio just by having worked with them for so long.
Hmm.
So there's lots of steps, and at any step, something can go wrong. Usually it doesn't. When fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's good to know because sometimes I think some people, collectors, are like, well, Weta should just do this. Maybe they'll do this for the, whatever milestone anniversary or something. It's like, well, they probably already planned that like 2 years ago, and so
Yeah. It is a bit like that. And and then there are times where we wish it could be faster because you want to hit that beat or something. Because yes, we do have to. It is one of those things with we're going to be releasing this for the 2025, Comic Con, and so we will then have started that sometimes 3 years ago. It's if I'm working on some of the projects, I'm very fortunate in that they give me a bit of extra time because while managing the department, I can't really devote 100% of my time like some of the artists can to the project. And so I will have all these myriad of other projects coming in. So sometimes I won't get time to work on what I want to work. Like recently, Kerith Ungol, I started that quite a while ago. And it gets to the point of like, you've really got to get this one finished for this beat. And I'm like, okay. And so it's like, put up the shields and fortunately I've got a really good team who work alongside me that they can then, help build that shield and just keep it so that I can just focus on it while still doing some important things for the department. But in general, they can then just keep the rest going on. So it's so that happens as well, just everyone's got different roles and the amount of times that a sculptor will be working on a project and it's like, well, we really want to get that figure for that beat, and they will stop working on something for the lifespan of another project and then go back to that project. It happens enough where, so it's though we try to not do it, but we're in a very fluid industry and
Right.
collectibles game.
And then there's instances too where we'll take something through to completion, and then we'll look at it as a group and decide it's not good enough. Like we've either made a mistake because that happens because we're human, or it's just not good enough, and then we'll go back 10 steps to make it the best it can be. But now it's going to take 6 months longer.
Right.
It's always an interesting discussion, but that happens as well.
Right. So, how much creative leeway do the artists get when it comes to things like poses or how much environment to add or subtract? Is it fairly substantive? Like, do they get quite a bit, or is it no, you've got to stick within these parameters, or is it you decided by base size? Is
Yeah.
that their main
Um,
restricting aspect of that?
Shall I speak to character and you can speak to environment? Because it's got two different things.
Right.
Characters we come up with a concept which will be in either in 2D like a drawing or a quick painting, or a 3D maquette, either in clay or in a program called ZBrush. And that's dictated usually by the intent of the sculpture. So do we want, like, we'll know the subject matter, say it's Gimli. Do we want Gimli in an exciting action pose, or do we want him in a moment of pathos or introversion or introspection, sorry.
Mhm.
Then once we've decided the intent, we give it to an artist, either 2D or 3D, and they have quite a lot of leeway. Like, so they'll come up with what they think can work, and then we gather around as a team. Most things are like, it's a real team effort, and we'll decide, is that the best possible way we can imagine to portray this moment, and then we go. And then they usually change all the way through. Like, we think we've got an idea, but as the project evolves, they usually change. And the trick, I think, this is the hard bit, but also the fun bit, is trusting yourself to go where it leads, you know, because they usually take on a life of their own. And so being brave enough or wise enough is maybe not the right term, but to being brave enough to follow where the project wants to go. So the artists, to answer your question, get a huge amount of leeway. But we have to submit concepts to the studio, but they change. So we just keep, as long as we keep studios in the loop, we have a really good relationship, like we said earlier, and we've built up years of trust. So we're in a pretty good position.
Yeah.
So the artists get a lot of leeway.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, and like everyone's like yourself, like we really love Middle Earth, so we would never do anything to disrespect it or be disloyal to the subject matter. So we're all pretty much on the same page, and we like to think we've got a pretty good understanding of the characters at this point. So in a way, we know the answers to most questions, I think.
Right.
And God, I could talk about this for hours, Tyler. The big question really, as far as concept, is, are we portraying something that we saw on screen?
Right.
Or are we portraying the character in a pose or a moment that perhaps we didn't see on screen, but we can easily imagine that they would have done?
Right.
That's probably the biggest question I think we ask ourselves of characters.
And that is the hardest one, because obviously people are having this, they've got a connection with the film and they want to see their character from it. So whenever we do depart from, you know, the norm or from something that someone can go, that is that particular scene, you know, it's not a very light decision when we do that.
No.
But sometimes we just feel that to not make, especially if the character is only seen for a short amount of time and it's a loved character, you sometimes don't have that much to choose from.
Right.
But you know the story of these characters, and so we do feel that, you know, at times that we will just get a more emotive or a better, you know, looking, feeling piece by just deviating from, you know, 100% film scene, you know, a screen grab, so to speak.
Right. Yeah, that would be it's an interesting kind of, I don't want to call it a dilemma, but choice where, you know, like how, like a created abstract kind of pose that could happen. The Master Collection is a great example of that. You know, they could have gone up some spiral staircase and this scene could have happened. We just didn't see it.
That's exactly it. And we're not trying to disrespect the character in any way. We still make them as accurate as we can. You know, we're not changing the character. We're not giving them, you know, different color pants or a, you know, fancy jacket. You know, it's still the characters we love. They're just in a different environment or a different scene or a different pose.
Right. And then I also love the ones that are basically screen grabs from the, you know, like the classic series Boromir where he's holding the ring.
Yes.
I got that
Oh,
on order. It's coming. I'm so excited to get it.
that
Um,
is beautiful.
and
Let us know when you receive him. He's one of my favorite pieces we've done over the last wee while. I
Yeah.
think I'm really, really proud of how he came out. I
oh, he
really
looks
like him.
fantastic, and I'm thrilled to get him with no arrows in him. Like
Yeah.
I know it's kind of a defining moment for the character, but
Yeah.
he's larger than that moment, right? And it's nice to see a version of him where he's really, I think the him holding the ring really it shows the struggle that his character has throughout the whole story, right? That internal debate where where Boromir is a good man, but he's being tempted by this thing that he really doesn't even understand, like how powerful it is, and it reminds me of the Astilador. I have him too, and it's almost like a mirror, and it's very cool. And
Oh,
so
fantastic. Yeah, I completely agree. I think Boromir is the greatest of men, and it's easy to remember him in a poor light because of all the struggles he went through. But it's I was really happy to show him, yeah, like you said, not full of arrows, and
yeah,
to sort of show the struggle and the internal conflict that he had to endure.
yeah, yeah, and I really like those ones because at the end of the day, for myself, I won't speak for all collectors. I'm a Lord of the Rings fan first, and then I'm a statue collector. And so having those statues mimic the scenes in the film, I really like because then I'm transported to that moment in the film every time
Yeah.
I look at it.
Yeah.
So, so you mentioned Cirith Ungol earlier and the new Green Dragon. How much of that is digitally sculpted and how much of that is traditionally sculpted? And
So,
do
yeah.
you guys think there's a place for traditional sculpting still in collectibles?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So, something like that. That's been the method I've worked on since I did Minas Tirith. Was that anything that is man-made and then that's carved rock and that sort of thing. So your rocks, your bricks, your wood, and all that sort of stuff that is used to create the structure has been digital.
Okay.
And then I dress it. So in the case of Minas Tirith, all the little buildings were digital, and then I put that onto a model made cake tower layer cake. But then the brickwork on the sides of each layer and a lot of the little details, those were all just model made because I love model making, and I'd probably have done those digitally now. But back then, I did lots of those model made. Something like Helm's Deep. We've got different kinds of rock molds as well that we use at times, as well as sculpting the rock when you want the rock to be more accurate to what it looks like. Because you can't necessarily go into nature and go, that's a 170th scale rock representation of exactly what I'm, that doesn't
Right.
work. So the rock, it's not like we just take a lump of rock. Often the rock is built up with multiples of little tiny rock castings because rock detail often carries beautifully, whether it's a life-size rock or a rock life-size rock scaled down. Since Green Dragon, so the walls on the Green Dragon were digitally done by Charlotte, and then Sean and Shanti sculpted all the thatch work and all the trees and all that sort of detail in it. Yeah, is that to answer your question?
Yeah, yeah. I had no idea that Minas Tirith had any digital
Yeah,
sculpting in it. That's very cool to hear. And the
yeah,
rock, I don't think any other company does rock as good as you guys.
I
Um,
think.
like I
Yeah,
don't know if you guys pay attention to any other what other companies are doing out there, but they don't come close when it comes to the rock that you guys do.
yeah,
I think you guys have the best, most realistic looking. Well, I'm looking at the Master Collection Golem right now, and it looks real. The rocks, you know,
yeah. So yeah,
and
Paul Van Omen did the rocks on that Master Collection column, and yeah, he was actually the one who started the whole process with the using the rock molds. He's still in our props department, and he's been a Weta for yonks.
Since he worked on
Yeah.
on the trilogy,
Yeah.
both trilogies. But yeah, with rocks, it's funny you should say that. Leonard and I talk about it all the time. Using whenever possible, like why sculpt a rock if you can mold a rock, if that makes sense? Like they already exist. They
Right.
do scale really well. So whenever possible, we'll use, and when it's applicable, we'll just use the real thing because you can't improve upon that.
Yeah. And
Right.
we have tried, done a few cases with digital rocks as well. And sometimes, just the translation from digital to physical isn't up to the level of what we're achieving with our current process. So, there have been many times where we've done a full character and we've done the full rock digital, boom, done. Assembled it, printed it, painted it, and it's just not been up to snuff. So we've redone that, redo the base, and that's just the way we are because it's we want them to be as crisp as we can. So it's
Right.
Yeah, sometimes the old ways are better, are the better ways. Like your earlier question is, we try and stay abreast of technology. I mean, that's our job. We have to, but just because something is new, it doesn't necessarily mean it's better. So there's absolutely still room for traditional sculpture. It's finding the strengths of each thing, eh? So
yeah,
like digital sculpture is really wonderful, I think, at like things like textures on fabrics. You can get
Yeah.
weave, cotton, or if there's fancy embroidery that would just be really difficult or impossible with traditional clay sculpture, because if you're doing it in clay, you have to do it at scale. So usually we're 6 scale.
Yeah.
So there's just some things that can't happen in clay that can kind of only happen in digital. But then, like Leonard was just alluding to, real rocks are better,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real rocks.
And so when we're doing foliage, it's like sometimes we do a bit of a mix. When we did the big bag end, the tree on the top was done digitally, but all the rest of it was hand sculpted. And it's just got that, especially with the hobbit holes and green dragon, and that it's got a little charm where you can see it's hand worked. It's and that's everyone's got a bit of emotion towards the handwork stuff. It's
Yeah.
and the majority of our sculptures are now digital, but the likes of Brigitte, who still do the most amazing, she's one of the few sculptors who still does fully, although she does digital as well, who's bringing traditional sculpting in. And recently Dan Cockesell did our from the Warhammer range, the Scragrot, the Gitz Loon King, and that's all done physically, and it's the most amazing detailed sculpture, and it's got so much life to it, and it's great that that he can that's the jam of a sandwich with digital on either side. So it's
Right.
And then even if like the vast majority of our bases, like the environmental bases we make, are still all done in clay or model making. So then like Rich and Tanya always talk about when they were working on the trilogy, that they wanted everything to feel grounded, like it's an alternative history. This could all have been real, and it's not high fantasy. It's a grounded alternative telling of history. So with the collectibles, I think it's really quite important to have a handmade aspect to each one if we can. It sort of helps ground them.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, one of the aspects I really love about the Weta collectibles is the bases are they're not distracting. I don't get distracted by the base. I mean, the base is there to support the character. It shouldn't compete with the character for my attention. In some cases, like the Master Collection Golem, it's intrinsic to where the character is doing, but it doesn't distract from the character, or even like the King of the Dead, the Mountain of Skulls he's on doesn't distract me from the actual character himself. And that's something I really like about Weta's approach to the bases, and it touches back to that it needs to feel real and grounded that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really important. And I think it's one of the things that, I mean, I'm guessing here, but I sort of feel like one of the reasons that Lord of the Rings resonated so well with so many people is because it was believable, like even though
Yeah.
it's Balrogs and all these fantastical elements to it, but it wasn't so far removed from reality that it felt absurd or too fantastical. And there's a lot of stories and films I love that are ridiculously fantastical. I'm not saying those things are bad, but I think Lord of the Rings kind of found that sweet spot with people, and I think it's because it's not hard to imagine yourself in that story, or at least in that world, because that world was so recognizable to people.
Yeah, it just felt so real, it looked believable, you know. So, what was the most challenging aspect of bringing the new Master Collection to life? I
Oh,
imagine there was a few, but what really stuck out to you guys?
it was a pretty scary one, to be honest, Tyler. Like, a lot of people had been asking us for years and years to do the fellowship in 6 scale, and to commit to doing it, knowing what an undertaking that would be, and how just physically large that would be, was pretty scary. And then, as we were discussing earlier, to Leonard might talk a bit more about the composition, but to tell a moment that we didn't see on screen, like that's never a decision made lightly, because A, just the love for the source material, and B, we we're in quite an honored and privileged place to sort of be allowed to use these or depict these characters, and sort of continue telling the story of these characters. So it's always pretty scary, to deviate from a moment that we saw on screen. And then logistic, a lot of people worked on it. Like, usually with a single character statue or even an environmental piece, there might be two sculptors at most. With this one, we had the entire team of sculptors working on it. So just coordinating everybody together and keeping, because all the elements were being worked on at the same time separately. Trying to manage that was just a lot of meetings and a lot of getting people all together and just constantly checking the work. And then while my team was working on the characters, Leonard's team was working on the environmental thing. That thing, the stairwell.
Right.
So the concept was scary, because we just, it was a big leap of faith that we could pull it off, both like in the real world, and that the concept was strong enough that it would resonate with people. God, that was a bit wobbly. I hope it's okay.
Yeah, I guess it would have been a very, like you mentioned, deviating from what we see on screen, and I think some collectors might say, well, there's a whole stair scene in the Mines of Moria with the whole fellowship on it. Why didn't they do that? And I think
That
the way you
one,
guys did it works just as well, like it tells the story of the fellowship without having to capture a moment from the film.
It's because if you if you say to anyone who's a big fan of the Lord of the Rings, we're gonna, what do you see your collectible of the Fellowship, and automatically your mind goes to that classic lineup, where you've got them. If you think about that, we do a collectible of that. That's it's got to come with a dining room table, right? So this was a great solution, and I remember the first time I saw what this could be was when Dan Falconer had done a sketch of the tower, the staircase, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, and it grew from that. But it was it just became the natural thing of like, how do we make it so that it's actually displayable? Because, well, I mean, the last Masters collection we did was the Salvation at Mount Doom, and that's got a decent wingspan. Yeah. And we've got one in our we've got a little meeting room over at our collectibles manufacturing side, and we've got one on the dining room. I mean, on the boardroom table there. And whenever we have more than three people, you're like around this awesome piece. But yeah, and that's how this thing grew. And so yeah,
And
it's
then we wanted also to, the composition's really important because it's a statue, it's a static object that hopefully people will look at for hours and hours, if not months, or a long period of time. We wanted the ability to show every character doing something that reflected their personality. And when we looked at the film, there's great moments where the Fellowship are all together, but generally, when you really, really look into it, there's only one or two of the members of the Fellowship might be doing something that's visually exciting or emotionally weighty. So we decided to go with this moment, which was invented as a way to sort of paint every character as kind of like the quintessential or a quintessential version of them, like showing their personality the
Right.
most. We felt that the best way to do that was to invent a moment, really. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because you've got Gandalf kind of guiding, and he's kind of looks like he's giving Frodo some insurance and advice, and Legolas, he's keeping watch into the dark with those elf eyes, and
Yeah.
Pippin and Merry, they're being inquisitive, and Boromir is helping one of the hobbits. That's a very
My
Boromir
favorite
thing to
part.
do.
Yeah,
And
yeah, showing
Aragorn kind
Boromir
of,
in light, Gimli in a moment of pathos.
yeah.
Because
yeah,
he's just come home and found, I'm sure that's not what he was expecting or hoping for.
Yeah.
yes, yeah. So were there many revisions for the Master Collection, or is it basically true to its original kind of idea?
Hmm. I would say it's pretty close to the original idea.
Yeah.
Obviously, it changed around. There's a really funny time, really early on as it was starting to grow, where we had a whole lot of armature wire stick figures that had printouts of the characters' faces on them, and these were then moved around and posed and to try and get the some what was going to feel natural. But it was quite cool, seeing Gimli on this super thin body with his face stuck on it, and then and they just so they could be posed. And so that was then how it grew. It was the general because the staircase was done digitally as well, but as a buck, and then the manufacturing side then took that, and we then put dressed it with clay, dressed it with rock, and to make the sculpted environment. And that was so that the sculptors who were working on their individual figures, they were not working in the dark as to the placement. So they had quite a reasonably accurate, foot position, head position for where they were going to be able to pose their character.
Right.
Hmm.
So
Like
how
this,
long was it? How long was it in the works for? Has it been 2 years, 3 years?
there was 8 months of physical sculpting and building, but then previous to that, the concept, as Leonard said, came from Daniel Faulkner. He was probably ruminating on that probably for years. But when we decided that we were going to commit to doing the fellowship in 6 scale, in one piece, and really started nailing down, it was probably 1 year, but a lot of people. So it would have been like in my team, there was probably 8 sculptors working on it. And then in Leonard's team, you probably had 3 or 4.
3 or 4, yeah, at any one time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the paint team was 3 or 4 people. Like it goes through, phases of the manufactured pipeline. But 1 year, 8 months of physical sculpting, building, molding, casting, painting, and then previous to that, ideation.
Interesting. Okay. So every year it seems like the Master Collection, it's always something very unexpected and very interesting. It's very much the highlight of the year for collectors. Even those of us who don't order it, it's very exciting to speculate on it and to just kind of see it. Do you guys feel any pressure to one up yourself every year, or do you just have to kind of take an approach of, well, let's just capture the best moment or version that we can and not worry about what we did last year? Because you might go a little insane doing that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like a pressure to one up ourselves with every single piece. Uh, the, but yeah, like you said, you have to be careful because it could drive you insane. Um, but the Masters collection is pretty special in-house. Like we've got the creative team had the mandate to push ourselves and to like try new things and maybe try things that perhaps might not be as financially viable in other product categories. So we can really go pretty nuts. So it's pretty exciting for us as well. But the one-upmanship, usually we try and pick a moment. Like this Masters collection is a culmination of Dan Felkner was sort of telling a story through a lot of the Master collections of just Frodo's journey through Middle-earth.
Right.
And then we sort of, that finished with Salvation at Mount Doom. That was I mean, it's not the end of Frodo's journey, but it's the end of the adventure. So really it comes down to, like we said earlier, like that, what's the moment we're trying to tell and the overall intent of the piece. Is if we
Right.
get that right, hopefully the sort of physical manufacture and the sculpture kind of takes care of itself.
Yeah. We always look forward to it because it's it gives us a bit of license to try new things. A lot of the time, or going back to Salvation, it was just to make a life-size huge eagle. It's just sometimes it's just a cool thing to do.
Yeah.
You come into
Yeah.
work to create this. That's cool. Sometimes does it need more than that? It's just
Yeah, right. It's interesting seeing the evolution of the Master Collection series. I have the first one, Gollum, and then the next one was Treebeard.
yeah.
And then you could almost say that was when it started to deviate from a character to telling depicting a moment, right? Like it's kind of a moment, it's or a kind of a character is Treebeard, but there's Merry and Pippin on there, and it's kind of he's got the rock and then we get Gandalf on cart and escape off the road and some um where do you guys see the future of the Master or Collection line going? Do you think it'll continue to tell moments, or will you bring it back to characters and doing maybe the best version of a character you can do?
I think it'll be a mixture of both, Tyler. Like the Daniel Felkner, I think one of his real strengths is like he's deeply passionate about Middle Earth and it was so intrinsically involved in the making of the films. He's all about moment, and he has a really deep emotional connection to the stories, like so many of us. But with him, it's real next level. So I think if Dan Felkner's leading the charge, it'll almost certainly always be a moment.
Mm.
If I get a little bit of, I'm like I said earlier, like really visual, so I kind of just go for, or like my tendency is to do a character to the best of our ability. So I think it's kind of who's the artistically leading the charge on whatever project, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah. Very
Yeah,
cool.
Leonard, I think I could speak for Leonard. He's super into accuracy, so
Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
that's why. So I enjoy I really enjoy the highly armored costumed characters. Like
Oh
Theoden
yeah.
is just me brilliant.
Yeah.
Those are the characters that I really love. So sometimes I'm just like, well, just give me, I'm happy with him standing around, and as long as it's looking correct. But yeah, it's from what we're sitting here looking at some figures down over there, and like there's Dane over there, and he's just like an awesome looking character, it's really nicely detailed, and it's yeah, it's
Yeah,
yeah.
there's like a number of different ways to interact with them. So I imagine, like, to answer your question, I think it'll be a mixture of all of the above,
Okay,
depending
cool.
on the piece. Yeah.
Cool. I imagine collectors will have a lot of fun kind of speculating on that.
Yeah. And it's a funny one because we play games with ourselves. Like, we want to give fans what they want, or what we think they want, but we also want to surprise them, and
Mm.
come up with something that might be unexpected, because that's hopefully that's fun for people as well.
Yeah, yeah. So do you guys have a favorite collectible you've worked on?
I have many. Mine is, it sort of changes, but currently it's actually the King of the Dead. I'm super proud of how he turned out. I love him as a character. That whole scene is one of my favorites. Again, it was really scary to do a moment that we didn't see on screen, but like, it ultimately, this is all subjective. I think it's a really wonderful portrait of the character. Um, and yeah, I love it. I love the translucent resins. We sort of got to try a few new things, and I think it came out really great. I love him.
Hmm. I think he's a fantastic representation of the character, and the details on him are fantastic. And there's that skull inside of him that you can kind of
Yeah,
see, and I think that's very cool.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. My one would probably be Minas Tirith. It's got a lot of sentimental value to
Mm.
me. It was where you know, the my two worlds collide, because before Weta I worked on some in the computer game and video motion uh, industry. So I was doing all digital, and this is where, and then I came to Weta and I was purely physical until we decided to do Minas Tirith, where I could then bring digital and my physical skills and mash them together, and that's help growing the collectibles the way we do things as well. And so that, and closely followed by this guy, Helm's Deep. It's I just love the scene of Helm's Deep, and so to make one that's this big is like, I was like really stoked, and I still surprise myself when I look around the back. It's like, oh, yeah, there's all that stuff around there.
Yeah,
So,
right? Yeah, that's fun. I
yeah,
love
yeah.
uh I love Minas Tirith as well. It was um when I started collecting, it had been long sold out, and so I started um a letter campaign, like, hey guys, copy and paste this and email it to Weta saying you'd like, I was like, well, it's an open edition. Maybe they have, there's no reason, maybe the molds still exist. Maybe they can bring it back. And then I think Weta got tired of that, so they created a thing on their website where you could just register your interest of something, and that snowballed to the point where I'd be making memes on the Facebook pages telling people go register because I really want Minas Tirith and your chance to get it too, and then it finally came back, and so I was very excited when it made a return.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
yeah. Well done.
It really, it still, it gives me the warm fuzzies, with people have such a connection to that collectible as well. So it's, yeah, and I do appreciate it, because it really was yeah, it holds a really high place in my heart, and I've got my copy sits above my desk, just around the corner, and it's one of the few collectibles, because my desk is a bit of a organized chaos, but it's one of the few collectibles I've got that's got its spot there, and
yeah,
yeah, I really love it.
that's all. Yeah, I love it too, and I loved it so much I started a campaign to get it.
Yeah,
So
that's dedication.
That's awesome.
That's really cool.
Well, thank you, because you've given many other people the opportunity to have it as well. So thank you for
yes,
that.
exactly. So are there any characters or locations that you guys would really like to visit or revisit in Middle Earth that you haven't had the chance to?
I've got my one might sound a bit funny. I've always wanted to do a female dwarf, like we saw them in The Hobbit.
Oh yeah.
So I just think that would be fun. Um, and then there's characters I just love, like Grima Wormtongue, for example. We haven't done him for a really long time, and I think he's Richard teases me about this because he's such a slimy, horrible little wretch. But I'm awfully fond of him, you know. So I'd love to do a Grima Wormtongue.
Yeah. Oh, my one was a character that I've always wanted was a Numenorian or what second age Gondorian. And
Yes.
so like way back when before I was at Weta, I even started to sculpt one and I never finished it. But yeah, that was one character that I was super keen on because it's just something stylistically about them. They look, so old worldly in the whole, Middle Earth thing. And
Yeah.
yeah,
They remind me of old like Roman legionnaires kind of.
yeah,
And
yeah, very much
and
so.
I was very excited when you guys released that poll you could vote in. And
Yeah.
I was also very split because Denethor was in there and I was like, oh, I really want a Numenorian. Like I love the Last Alliance prologue stuff.
Yeah.
I love that Elendil you guys came out with. Perfect pose and details and just such cool armor. I just love Elendil's armor and
Yeah.
then we had all except the Numenorian. I'm like, but then Denethor, he might be a jerk, but he's an important character to the story,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
he's never been depicted in any form of collectible. So I was really torn, and I really hope you guys do both of them. But
Which one did you vote for?
I voted Numenorian.
Well
Yeah.
done.
I did the first breeders poll. Like I love the ring wraiths, man. Like I never get sick of looking at them. If it was up to me, we'd just sculpt ring wraiths for forever. And I love them in their spectral form as well. So I was really happy when the spectral ring wraith won the poll, and then we had a second vote for which one to choose in which pose.
Yeah.
The one I wanted didn't win that one.
I love ring. I got two whole shelves in my display cabinet just for ring wraiths, and I don't think
Oh,
you can have
there's,
enough of them. Just they
there's so
got
many designs, from the film that are just really iconic and never like Minister Earth. I'd never get sick of looking at
Yeah.
that city. The ring wraiths are great. I think a lot of the Mordor architecture and armor is just brilliant. Like I'll never get. I don't feel like I'll ever get sick of looking at it.
no, no. That's very. I wouldn't have thought a dwarf woman would have been on the list but
Yeah, that's
there's
just.
some,
I'm not sure how popular that would be. It's just something I've always wanted to do. I
right?
think it just appeals to my sense of humor. Like they sort of get mentioned in fantasy and in the story, but you never really see them. And then the Hobbit, they showed them like really briefly,
Yeah.
and I was like, yes.
Yeah, right. It was a fun callback, kind of Easter egg almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I would since since we're on the topic of just stuff we'd like to see or visit, I would love to see you guys take on the Balrog again,
Yeah.
but with LEDs in it. I think the technology exists and the time has come. I think you guys could just nail it and I think it would look so cool to have an LED infused Balrog, right? And um the other one I've always thought would be kind of neat is and it comes up occasionally on the forums is the statues within Middle Earth, and you guys
Yeah.
still have like Gary Hunt and Brigida there and I think Brigida sculpted that statue of Hesiodor in the courtyard of Minas Tirith and on
Yeah.
that horse. And that would be so cool to have a collectible version of that, or and to have the same artist who made the prop in the film sculpt the collectible, I think would be
Yeah.
really cool. And and
Agreed. I totally agree. I always get a real kick out if we can have an artist like a direct callback to the films in any way at all. And usually that's with the artist. that's always something that we'll try and do, because it's a direct line to the source material. So that's always a wonderful thing when we can pull that off.
Yeah. So that's when we did Minas Morgul, I asked Gary if he could sculpt the little gate bridge.
yeah.
So he did those just because he did the foam sculptures of the original ones from set. That for me, he's like, that's kind of get a little kick out of that, It's like
definitely.
Get a lion and asking for a sword. It's
Yeah.
I can't really say anything at all, Tyler, but wait until you see what Gary's working on at the moment. Hopefully it'll make you pretty happy.
Oh, I'm sure I'll be thrilled with whatever you guys come up with, It's always exciting to see what you guys come up with, and it's just a lot of fun, and I wish sometimes I had a crystal ball or a palantir to see what was coming, but just to save on plan my purchases, but I know it doesn't work that way. But it's very exciting. It's always fun to see what you guys come up with, and then when and to hope like, oh, it'd be cool if they do this and that, and so it's very fun to and I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys do for the 25th anniversary of the films and this next year, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Tyler. I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad you still find it fun.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. I don't think I'll ever get tired of Lord of the Rings or collectibles that you guys come up with, and it's just I'm running out of space, and my wife, she'd say you bought another Hobbit hole or something, but
But haven't you got enough stuff now where the stuff just merges in? So you, as long as you can hide the box, you're good.
Well, that's the other thing. I need to get like a sea can soon, right? Like, the boxes, nobody talks about the boxes. They take up so much space, and as much as I love these big pieces, the boxes are so big, it's like, where do you put them? Because you can't throw them away, right?
Yeah, we were just discussing this on I was giving Jules a lift to the station the other day, and we were just discussing that, and yeah.
Yeah, I've got a confession to make. I like you, Tyler, I collect, and I'm really, really passionate about it. Just recently I've given up trying to hold on to the boxes, and this is probably going to get me in trouble saying this on a YouTube video, but I've started throwing my boxes away. I just have nowhere to put them. I don't want to stop getting collectibles. I've hung on to a lot, but I've just run out of room. So now I take the collectible out of the box, and away goes the box.
That's fair. Yeah, there's a picture among the collecting community of an older collector who he was never going to be moving again, and he'd built his collection showroom, and he made a big bonfire out of all the boxes, and he solved his space issue. So
Yeah, that's the stage I'm at, and I don't want to stop. Like, I've got a small room at my house for the collectibles, and I've got a studio where I work at home, and that's full of them as well. And I don't have any inclination to stop. So something's got to give, and it's the boxes for me. So they're mine now.
it's nice to know that you guys can understand the struggle.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh. Well, thank you so much, guys, for joining me on the show. It was just a privilege and a blast to kind of talk to you about collectibles and just kind of get an insight on a bit on how collectibles are kind of the philosophy behind them at Weta and how you guys approach them. I think I found it fascinating, and I hope a lot of other collectors will find it fascinating as well. And I thank you for joining me.
Hey, thank you, Tyler. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.